Welcome to the second day of Selenium training. In the previous class, we have done like small questions, FAQ, installation of PyCharm and Eclipse, checking Python prompt from command prompt. You can check that you have installed Python by using the command where Python. Okay, now we have done configuration of Python with PyCharm, making first program using Python in PyCharm, discussion and installation about IDE, Eclipse, configuration of Python with Eclipse, making first program using Python in Eclipse. Now, let's move to some advanced topics that are the syntaxes, syntactical error, and variables and data types. So, and to start with what I am just going to do is I'm just going to open up my PyCharm IDE. So, can I ask you one question?
Yeah, go on, please.
Uh, can you tell me the full form of IDE?
Selenium IT.
No, no
Sorry.
worries.
I have used in the past, but I don't exactly
It
remember.
is integrated development environment. So
Okay,
it's
okay.
a basically what a basic interview question. So uh, whatever I'm going to do in my PyCharm IDE, once it's completed, I'm also going to run it on Eclipse as well to show you that the statements are going to be the same, just the platforms are different. Okay. Now, what we have done in the previous class that this is a print statement. So now over here in the last lecture, we have seen the print statement, right? This is a simple syntax of a print that you can give in Python. No extra columns, no extra line statements. You don't have to give semicolon or something. Nothing is required. It's simply going to print your output. And same thing we have seen in Eclipse as well, that it was running perfectly fine. Now moving on to syntactical error. Syntactical error, if you say, uh, suppose I will syntactical error are somewhat like the Python language has a predefined grammar and you have to follow it. Python is very strict about the blank spaces. Okay, wherever the blank spaces are not required, you are giving a space, then it's going to pop up with an error. Like if I say given space, okay, and suppose over here I don't want it, but still for my satisfaction, I give a blank space like this only and run my code. Now it is an indentation error. Okay, why? Because over here the space that I am giving is not required. It is unnecessary and it is not allowed. So that's why you have to very particular about some things in Python. Okay. Now the same way, for suppose I have a print statement which is quite long, like you can say mm, Python language. So suppose over here, if I copy and structured copy till programming. Suppose I want to print this statement. Okay. Now this statement is very much long. So here you can see that print statement that I want to print. if I maximize this as well, this is quite long. I have to scroll my workspace to see whether the quotes have been there or not, or the brackets are there or not. So I have to scroll it. That I don't want. I just want that all the details, all whatever code I have written should be displayed on the workspace itself without the need of scrolling. Okay.
Basically, we want lines like
Yeah, yeah,
intention.
without the need of scrolling. So I will split it into parts.
Mhm.
So you can say here, uh, say this code, if I go here and simply press enter. Okay. And again, I will can say if I run my code again, it will not give an error, but you see that it is disoriented, that something is there, something is there. Okay. Now again, if I press enter, then it works fine. Okay. Now if I run my code, again it is giving the space here, you see. Okay. And usually you see that codes automatically came, but in your case, if you are using an older version in which it is not automatically coming, so what you can do is uh, if okay, now again it will work fine. If we are using the old versions, in the older version of Python, PyCharm IDE, these codes doesn't come automatically. Okay, you have to put slash, you can say backslash over here. Okay, now you see that this is unwanted space is coming. So now it is printing all the line. Okay, so there are two things over here that you should also be careful about the end of line character, that your statement, whichever you are giving, is properly ended. Now, this was simple Python syntactical error that do come if you are new. You might face this issue, and also I suggest you to make these errors and understand how it is being corrected. Okay, now whenever you read the definition of Python, you will get to encounter a line that Python is an interpreted language, because how the interpreting is going to work in Python is that it will read the code line by line. Okay? It will read line 1, this it will read line 1, then it will read line 2 and look for the error. Then it read line number 3, then again look for the error. And suppose you got error in you can say mm, line number 3. Okay, now if you run your code, it will tell you that where the problem is coming. Okay, there are some other languages that will check the whole code in one go, but Python is an interpreted language. It will go line by line and give you the line number from which the error comes. Okay, now So now you know what is interpreted language.
Yeah.
Okay, that read the code line by line. Okay, now these two things I wanted to tell you. Now moving further, I have topics of you can say variables and data types. Okay, now coming back to our thing. Now we will discuss variables. Variables are nothing but a container in which you can store a value. Okay. Now let's say variable is container whose value may vary. Okay, it's a you can say container which you can store a value. Okay. Now here you can name anything. Suppose I have named my variable a, but there are some rules. I will tell you the rules which you need to follow. I am just using this alphabet a to define a variable of mine. Okay. Now it's just a simple character, just a simple letter. Once I will put some operator in front of it, it is going to be considered as a declaration of a variable. Now after this equal to, I can give any number. Suppose I will any number, any decimal number, any binary number, whatever you want, you can give. Suppose I give it as 10.5. Now this a become a variable who's containing the value 10.5. Okay. Now I will print a. Okay. Now if I run my code, you see it prints 10.5. Now I'm getting the value which is stored inside the variable a. Now the same way I can give as and write as Python and here I will print a. Okay, now if I run my code again, now you see it print Python as well. I'm using the same variable and this time I will give value as a word. So now in a variable there is a string. Okay, I'm getting the value Python. Python language actually provides you a facility to use the same variable. You may use same variable. You can see over here that previously I was giving 10.5 or you can say decimal value, and in the next step I am changing the value to a string. In some languages this is not supported. It will give you a duplicate valuable error, right? But in Python language it's not like that. You can use the same variable again and again. Okay, now you can see over here that this is a number. Hmm. This is a number and this is a word. And I'm not specifying anywhere that what is being stored in the variable because Python does not require that. Python has a inbuilt functionality by which it automatically decides that what is the value stored in the variable. That is why it's called machine language. This is a inbuilt function in Python by which you can check that data type, that what is the type of data you are storing. Okay, now you see for the second print, the data type is going to automatically decided that is string. So this is an inbuilt functionality in Python. Now coming to the rules, let's just talk about the rules. There are four rules which are defined by defining a variable. Okay, now the rules are the name of the variable should not start with number. Okay, now to check this, I can see 9c equal to 5 and I want to print my 9c. Okay, now if I run my code, you see invalid decimal literal, and it is saying that there is problem in this, and again it gives me the line number as well, that there is problem in line number 18. Okay, so this proves that it is an interpreted language. And now my first rule, that name of the variable should not start with number. Okay, now so this is against the rule. By defining a variable I cannot this, but the reverse of this is true. I can do this. Okay, now if I run my code, so there is no error in this. Okay, but it is giving warning, so you have to write like this. Now okay, now it prints value 5 as C9 has a value of 5. Okay, now there is another rule, that name can contain a number. Okay, name can contain a number, which I already see you. So now comes another rule about special symbol. While you're declaring the variables, only a single special symbol is allowed, that is, you can say underscore or this sign. Only underscore is allowed, but any other special symbols like you can say underscore allowed, and any other special symbols like can say dollar, which is very common, dollar, at the rate, exclamation mark, or any other symbol like star. It is not allowed in name. So first I will do like and say where underscore 1 equal to variable 1. Okay, and print my var1. Now, if I run my code, now you see it is printing variable 1. Now, if I change my, can say underscore to suppose dollar, and if I want to run my code, now it says invalid syntax. Okay, so you have to be very careful about declaring the names. Okay, now again coming to the rule. Now this rule is basically about the keywords. In every language, there are some predefined values which are given the meaning in the language itself. Like for I'm using this print statement, print that, so I get the details that what this print statement is assigned to do the work. It is assigned to do the work to just collect like the stream and print it on the console. Okay, this is the function of the print. The same way I have another keywords like can say if, else, can say elif, for, while, try. These are the predefined words. So the rule is that you cannot give a name to the variable which is already have a meaning in the language dictionary of Python. Like if I want to give my variable name as try equal to 9, and if I hover over try, this specify exception handlers or code for a group of statements. Now it has some value in Python language. So you cannot use predefined keywords in Python. So I can't use this. Okay. Now these are the rules. Again, writing. You can't use predefined keywords as your variable name. Okay. And the keywords are like if, else, elif, for, while, try. Okay. So these are the rules of defining a variable. Now you need to be very strict about these rules because you want like to get an unnecessary error while working. Now we have seen these things I have told you, the syntax, the syntactical errors, the variables, how you can declare a variable, what are the benefits that you are having in Python by using the same variable, okay? By using the same variable, rules to define the variable, what are keywords that you can't use, what symbol you can use and what can't use. Now moving further to your data types. Okay, now if I say a, suppose I declare that a1 equal to 10 and I will say print, there is a function known as type, and I will type a1 and again print a1. Okay. Now, if I hover over type, the object's type, name, base, dictionary, a new type copied from class. Okay. Now, if I run my code, now you see class integer. Okay. Now you have integer, float, string. Now Python will provide you with another that will I will discuss. Suppose I will write as a2 equal to, or you can say a1 equal to uh, Python language and print type a1 and again print a1. Okay. Now if I run my code, now you see it giving as integer in the first line 32 and print 10, then it takes a1 as string. So you have float or decimal. If I give this as a1 equal to, can say 3.5. Now it's, now I write print type, and you can say a1 print a1. Okay. Now if I run my code, now you see it is giving class as float. Now,
Yes, I have a question here. If we give
yeah,
the string and integer at the same time, it will print both.
yeah,
Okay, thank you.
okay. Now here it is string and here it is integer, but you write something like 3 in this, but it will, you see, it is taken as string because it's in the quotes. Okay. Now Python will provide you with other data type, which is known as complex one. Now, the complex one that usually not going to be used throughout the working, but they are the complex variables that are defined. So I can write this as, you can say again a1 equal to 7 uh, plus 5j. Okay. Now if I say print, sorry. Now if I say print type a1 and print a1. Now if I run my code, you see complex. Generally we don't use these, but if you remember that we have used these in our lower classes, like if I do 4 plus 6j and 6j, and the result you can say equal to c plus d. So, uh, uh, suppose here I will I can write c C, C result as C plus D and print type result and print result. Now, if I run my code, now you see that it adds 7 plus 4, 11, and 5 plus 6j adds 11j. So this way you can use your complex data type. So these kind of operations you can perform using Python, and resultant data type of variable is again complex. Okay, so these are the data types that are supported in Python language. They are very easy to declare. There is no extra columns you have to put, okay, or no extra detailing. It's just simple to go. Now, as I already told you in the beginning of the class, that what whatever we do in PyCharm IDE, I will again do it in my Eclipse IDE. So I will copy my whole code here, and okay, now if I can say run as Python run, now you can see the whole output that is coming in Eclipse IDE, it is same as PyCharm IDE. Okay, so you can see that output is same. So that I told you earlier, that syntax is going to be same, just the platforms are different. So one thing more, that here I'm putting, can say these as my, you can say comment statements. So here, if I can, if you comment all these lines together, you can do it just by, you can say, okay, now you see you can comment these lines as well. And if I again run as my Python run, see that it is not giving any error. Same way I can do it, I think so, in PyCharm IDE as well. Now, if I run my code again, there is no error. So this way you can comment the three lines as well. Okay, so moving on to our next topic, which is known as decision making statements and the looping statements. Now, before directly jumping to the statements, that what are those statements, I just wanted to discuss the flow, that how actually the flow are, what are the uh, decisions making statements. Okay, now if just hold for a minute. Suppose, yeah, first I jump IDE and my new Python file and name it as Python decision making. Okay. So suppose I write, mm, firstly, I would like to cover with the decision making statement, and in the decision making statement, I have a number, I have the condition. So I can say condition statements like if else, then if if, then else, then nested if. First, I talk about if condition. Okay, so now let's say I'm checking that whether a is less than 10 or not, that I want to check. Okay, suppose a equal to 3 and I want to check whether it is less than 3 or not. Now there is a thing in if condition that there is a condition a is less than 10 or not. Now it will have two ways. First is like you say, either it is true or either it is false. When the code execute, it has two conditions. Either it is true or either it is false. Now, if the condition is true, then I will perform some action. But if the condition is false, my code will be terminated. Okay. The thing is that if a equal to 3, suppose I write if a is less than 10 condition, and I will type print a is less than 10. Okay. Now if I run my code, now it is printing a is less than 10. Okay. Now suppose here a is, you can say, uh, It's 20. Okay, now if I run my code, then nothing will print, as this will my code will be terminated because there is no true condition over here. So for that we have if else condition. Suppose here again we have a say condition that a is less than 10. In if else condition, if in if condition, if it is true, then it will perform some action. But in if else condition, I have two scenarios, whether it is true, whether it is false. Like whether it is true and whether it is false. That it is true, then it will go in this direction, and if it is false, it will go in this direction. And in both the scenarios, it will perform action, perform action. So I will write as like so. Where they are now? If this, then I will not. Now this is if else statement. Now b equal to 50, and if b is less than 10, then type b is less than 50, else print b is greater. Okay, now if I run my code, now you see b is greater. So you see in my syntax there is no bracket. Okay, if I put brackets over here, it will give me error. Okay, so you have to be very precise that this error not comes in your code. Okay, now you see that it types that b is greater, as this is an if else condition. Now you will see that if I type, you can say A is 10. Okay. Now you see that you know the difference between if and else, that in if condition, the code will terminate if the condition doesn't match, and if else condition, that if the condition doesn't match, then it will go to the else part. Okay. Now this way, if else condition work that we have discussed here. Now comes for another condition, which is if if else statement. Okay. Now suppose C is 30. Now what I want to check in the example whether C is equal to, say, if C is equal to 10, then print C is number 10. Okay. And else, now here comes the elif. L if C equal to 30, then print C is 30. Else print C is undefined. Okay. Now if I run my code, here is, okay, this is a syntax error. Okay. Now C is 30. So this is how you use elif. You can simply apply as many elif as you want. Suppose I will write one more elif. If C equal to 40, then print C is 40, and I will pass 40 over here. Now you see C is 40. Again, I will pass one more elif, and again run my code. Now you see I can use any amount of elif condition. Okay. Now comes the condition which is known as nested if. Nested if. Now this condition is like You can say there is an if condition. Now it is going to be true or it is going to be false. Okay. Now whether it is true or it is going to be false, and when it is going to be true, then if condition again and again, if there is again there are two situations that it may be and say uh, true or it may be say false. It may be true or it may be false. And the same way, then again there is another if condition. So this way, this is my nested if works. Suppose my example, suppose I declare d equal to 45. Now I can give as if d is not equal to 0, so it is true. D is not equal to 0. Then if you can say d is greater than 40, again it is true. Then if d is less than 50, which is true, so print d is less than 50. Okay. Now if I run my code, now you see d is less than 50. Okay. So can you pardon me for 2 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm back. So this is how nested if works. Okay, you see that first it look for that d is not equal to 0, then d is greater than 40, again the true condition, and in the end if d is less than 50, then it prints d is less than 50. So I can use as many as statements, nested if statements which I want to use. If the condition uh, is true, then it will go in the same direction. So suppose uh, in the end I can use, you can say, my else statement and can print d is greater than 50 if I change it to 55. Okay. Now if I execute my code, now you see d is greater than 50. Okay. Now here, if you see, suppose I am give it as 0. Now I can declare here else that d is 0. Now if I run my code, see it's print d is 0. So here you see that I have used if condition and else condition and nested if condition, if else condition. Okay, this way the whole things work. Now this is actually how my decision making conditions goes on, and they are totally dependent upon the results that are coming of the conditions. Fine, either I get true, either I will get false. If the condition is matching, then true comes. If it doesn't match, then I will get the false. For this, we have decision making statements. Okay, now I move further to the looping statements. Now, looping statements are used when I have to work with the iterations, means over a range. I want to use a range in which I want to repeat my loop, repeat my function again and again. In Python, we generally use two types of loop. First is you can say first is you can say while loop. In while loop, I will be checking that every time condition is true, then it will keep going on. Otherwise, it quit. In simple language, I will say that suppose I will before making to these statements, actually I want to show you that suppose I have told you earlier that I will uh, run the same code in the Eclipse as well. So I will copy this code so I can see and go to my Eclipse and make a, can say, new, or suppose I will print over here and save it, then run as my Python run. So again, you will see that output of Eclipse IDE and PyCharm, or you can say PyCharm IDE, is same, that A is less than 10, B is greater, C is 50, and D is 0. So both things work fine. Okay. Now coming back to a example, we can, yeah, mm, I will make a new file. Um, Name it as looping concept. So, okay, then I will tell you, yeah. Now, this thing will work like while the condition is true, then code will execute. Okay. Now, if say um, if it is false, then it will exit the code. Okay. This is known as while loop. Okay. Whether this will keep on looping until the condition is true. Okay. So I think so there is 1 hour. So we will continue with this by tomorrow at the
Okay, sure.
same time.
Yeah,
You
thank you.
can come on same time.
Yeah, yeah, same time. Yeah.
Okay. So
Thank you.
please, okay, Purnima, have a nice day.
You too.